8th of April. It's hard to believe that the time is flying so fast. And, of course, our scientist, Ann Morrison, joins us for Twiland.info. You'll find after a lot of the shows now, I'll be posting up videos on our new live stream TV channel under our different events. And these are all free. You just have to go to our link to Deagle Network TV live stream. The links are right there. Many of them are also going to be translated over to our YouTube channel, but they're all available on every platform. Android, iPhone, iPad, tablets, computers, anywhere in the world, Macs. So it's all free, totally. Interesting, I want to talk about some of the different protocols. We had a request regarding menopause, and we talked about that earlier. Skin cancer, eye floaters, etc. One of the gentlemen asked about things like magnetic sleep pads. And I tell people what you want to do mainly is you want to block electropollution, which is important. So if you have a smart meter on your home, on your apartment building, you want to block it in your room, and there's materials available from Less EMF. You can also have switches that are blocked in terms of the radiation going through the home using the Stetzerizer switches, etc. So if you have specific requests on Less EMF, just drop me an email. I'll give you a couple recommendations, and you can call and talk to our Less EMF staff over there. And I think that you'll be impressed that Emil de Toffel, who has a background, certified dentist many years ago, also electrical engineer, and probably one of the top experts on equipment for electropollution, radiation detection, etc. Let's see. I want to talk about some of the latest other news items that are going on. One of them that I find quite interesting is from Japanese news, envisionment payment system using fingerprint authentication. And, of course, there's the access to airports. They've been doing tests for the last 10 years plus where you get rapidly through security if you have a secure biometrics, fingerprints. They even have, and I actually visited 1999, Building 10 at Oak Ridge National Labs in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is also one of the earlier places where they did research at the Oak Ridge National Labs on nuclear materials in conjunction with the University of Chicago. So, the mark of the beast is coming. You may not want to believe that it's actually happening. I've talked about it over the last 20 years, having worked at the Virtual World Project in the mid-90s in Colorado at Schriever Air Force Base. And I have been inside the actual quantum array of Cray 4 and Cray 5 gallium arsenide quantum computers. And I know in exquisite detail, but I'm not going to release it until it's appropriate time because most people won't believe what I have to tell them. But I can tell you right now, Samsung Pay and Apple Pay, etc., are all here. And they want to basically have, for tax exemption, for identification, passports, etc. And they're trying to put it even on your iPhones and so on now. So you can't open your iPhone except with a digital fingerprint. So they can take at Oak Ridge National Labs, a micro drop of your blood, which is basically 100th of the size of a regular drop. And using DNA endonucleases with a chip at the time that costs 42 cents, they can tell who you are from any other human being on Earth in about 5 minutes. It's a little chip that's connected through a USB port into a laptop. It can tell exactly who you are compared to a database of anybody else on Earth. You can even look at your HLA haplotypes for transplantation of organs, your blood group types for blood transfusions, and even look at your gene ontogeny like 23andMe. So all of this, believe it or not, is already available. So science is far more advanced than people want to believe, and it's scary because you do not want a biometric system. And that's in the works. One of the other interesting things is the NASA. NASA is a lying agency. I have an article here I want to post up on the global temperature record as a smoking gun of collusion and fraud. Quite amazing. And, of course, NASA is continuously lying. And we've had Professor Mechanic talk about this, but even their charts about temperature increases, etc. We know that the ice shelf in Antarctica is dramatically increasing. We know there's increasing methane hydrate release all over the planet. We know there's increased volcanism and earthquakes. Those are caused by gravity waves that strike the Earth and the deeper mantle called the ringwoodite layer, 400 to 700 kilometers down. It releases nascent hydrogen and oxygen to form nascent water. Nascent water lowers the melting temperature of rock that forms magma that triggers off earthquakes and volcanoes. And if you hit the right harmonic resonant frequency of the tectonic interface plates, that creates giant waves between the piezoelectric crystals along the rock face and releases the tectonic energy that's stored in the rocks. So, for example, in some portions of the San Andreas Fault, there's up to 12 feet of recoil stored. If even an amount of 6 inches is released, it'll cause a major superquake. So right now the quakes are moving around the Ring of Fire. They hit the island chains off of Alaska. They're heading down toward the Cascadia subduction zone. So at some point in the probably less than a decade, we're going to have a major superquake. Last year we did have a subduction fault zone fall of 8 feet off the coast of Oregon and Washington State, because there's seamounts of actual volcanic seamounts below the surface of the water where there's volcanoes that are quite active out there. And the most active area in the world with the largest number of volcanoes per square mile is not North Africa, not the Far East or Tomba, Oregon. Oregon, Oregon. Isn't that amazing? So things are going to happen, and then of course if it hits the Cascadia subduction zone, the next thing is San Andreas. And San Andreas, like the movie with The Rock, is going to get ugly. So I can't tell you when, but if I had enough basically telluric frequency analysis along rock faces, I could tell you there's building energy there, and that building energy, once it hits what's called harmonic resonant, to decrease the mu or resistance between the rock faces, you're going to have a major slip. And you could break those up with hundreds of microquakes per day using similar to noise-canceling headphones set up with telluric current harmonic frequency resonators to release the rock face energy just a little bit every day, so you get microquakes you couldn't even detect. But no, they're not doing that. They're going to wait till there's a major superquake, which will kill perhaps millions of people and disrupt oil and gas lines, electrical power, cause violence and starvation. And America is at a major risk. And of course, same with the water that's above the major caldera in Yellowstone Park. It's the water that'll get underneath that caldera that'll cause a major what's called hydrovolcanic explosion, where the water becomes superheated steam and ejects that magma as far out as it even into space. So that's the largest caldera on the planet. It does blow every somewhere around 600,000 to 700,000 years, and it's actually due, believe it or not, now. So we need to divert that water away, as Professor McCanny has said before. We'll talk about that as well in the not-too-distant future. Some of the other items that are going on, of course, coming up next week, we have the debates. One of the things I want to mention to you is that virtually all politicians, and that includes Trump, are making Masonic signs. And you have to understand some of them are what we call white hats. You have to decide for yourself which politician is going to support you. I personally think that Donald Trump, despite whatever else is going on with him, because I think he has difficulty with restraint of his tongue in terms of acting a little bit juvenile and quote, counterpunching, and his wife and his daughter told him to get rid of his retweet account, his tweet account, Twitter that is, and to act more presidential. And I do think he has a brain to solve problems and negotiate. He is basically the only one that will actually destroy the system. So they're fearful of Ted Cruz, which they've collaborated with so he can win in Wisconsin, but they're terrified of Donald Trump. So Donald will break up the current feeding frenzy of the political piranhas in the lake called the District of Criminals, Lake District of Criminals, Lake DC, I call it. And basically some of the richest people on earth are in this feeding in this system, which is corrupt. It's destroying American business, it's crushing the middle class, and weakening America, because without a strong America, there's not a safe world. And that's what's going on there. So that's some of the interesting things. Bernie Sanders, of course, is still surging. He's now saying that Hillary Clinton is unqualified. That's self-evident, especially with all the corruption she takes. But the problem is Bernie Sanders has no solutions. He is a Bolshevik communist. And if people get Bernie in, central government will control everything, including food lines, which, by the way, he thinks is good because it means everybody will get fed. Only his system will collapse the economy, so it'll be a communist failed state, just like the failed state of Russia. That's where we're going. So we need to see if we need to pray seriously that Trump gets in, and also that we can steer Trump. Don't just let him go on his own. Same with our congressmen and senators. Don't let them get away with this, or the RNC. They are going to blow themselves up if they try to jump over Trump and Cruz. God help us if Cruz gets in, Hillary Clinton, or Bernie Sanders. It will be devastating. I just want to go over some of our specials that are sitting on the front page of Nutrimedical.com, and also look over at our other website, clayandiron.com. We have a featured special on brain power, our Dr. U book, the Silver 100. We always have specials on regarding our Silver 100. And NutriDefense, which I designed to block viruses, block bacterial and viral invasion of tissues, and the most powerful antioxidant we have, the anhydrous catechin. In studies done, for example, on prostate cancer, it actually eliminated prostate cancer 100%. So it's very protectant against cancer, oxidative damage to any tissue. It's the most powerful antioxidants we have. Then we look over at the specials on our product specials side, on the side panel. We have Allison Med Sale. It's the highest concentration of allicin. It is 200 milligrams more than even Alamed and a much better price. QRMA, which includes free consultations twice a year on each of your family members on the QRMA. If you do an additional consult, let's say reviewing medical records, that's a separate thing. But the QRMA device is amazing. The Dr. U book talks about that and the whole issue of functional medicine to determine physiological imbalances, deficiencies, and toxins. Cardiovasc, this is of course a superior formula to all the other formulas out there. There are knockoffs that basically do not have every batch tested for the particular biomolecule, the right part of the plant, and the consistency of the formula to improve endothelial wall function, lower blood pressure, and improve tissue perfusion. We have lactose blocker that's excellent for people who have lactose intolerance, and the sale is 30% off and free shipping, so that's pretty amazing. Looking at our panel that's been upgraded recently on our Listen Live panel on Nutrimedical.com and Clay and Iron, you'll see we have the Listen Live free to our shows, which you can go from 12 to 3 Pacific Standard Time. And then, of course, our free Nutrimedical show archives, MP3 archives, that should go directly to the server. The Nutrimedical show cell phone apps and show call-in number, 800-259-5791. And the Listen Live fee number, 605-562-4096. Below that, you'll see free Deagle Network TV channel. That is our live stream TV channel. For the previous 6 years, I've had a live stream premium channel, but they've upgraded the technology dramatically, and I have the next to the top channel with at least 5 events right now. All those access are completely free. You don't have to do any passwords. The only thing you need to do is give your email and when you're logging in. We have our YouTube channel as well that's completely free of many different topics, and of course Nutrimedical direct link to our specific sub-event for Nutrimedical's nutraceutical formulas, protocols, and wellness topics and conferences, all of those available on VOD, video on demand, on our Deagle Network TV channel. Below that, the program clock for radio stations, if you want your local radio stations to pick up the program, that gives you the info regarding it. We also have the smartphone apps, so you have access, and we're working on other things to improve availability. I'm going to be doing some significant work on the additional links on the right-hand side of the page. What's going also on, if you go over to our Clay and Iron website, clayandiron.com, you'll see that all of the news, other than nutritional wellness news, is over at Clay and Iron. So you can go to the news items under the Mentoring Center. There's radio and show archives, and I'm just starting to do a cross-indexing of all the radio archives on our servers as well as the Genesis. News and top stories. The news and top stories basically covers all the different news items, and it breaks it down by topics, and you'll see virtually any topic you want to think of. Nutrimedical show, top daily world news, top U.S. news, going down further, police state, martial law, 9/11 World Trade Center, world financial fraud, world economic crisis. So if any of those topics actually is important, you'll see a cross-indexing of all the different top stories. We're also cross-indexing all of the show topics. You'd be able to go in the search engine at the top. It not only finds you the show, but it'll also find you the MP3 of the show archives. That's also there. If you look at the front page of clayandiron.com, you'll see we have a mentoring center that includes join our emailing list, topical teachings. So you'll see a number of topical teachings in different news items, geopolitical and spiritual religious issues. And you'll see the top says Clay and Iron Coming Kingdom of the Most High God. It also has a number of different product specials. We have many different affiliates that are authors, particularly Christian authors, geopolitical authors, and you'll find those under our products. So if you go over to the products page, subsection, you'll see a number of authors, including Barry Chamish, BeforeUs.com, a link directly there to some of the products, like his latest 4 DVD sets, Bill Salas, lots of different things that are available there. And some of them are like Tex Mars. We often have Tex on the program. Besides his website, we will sell his products through our Clay and Iron site as well. You'll also find a direct link to the DVDs I've done in the past, such as the DVD done in Washington, D.C., June 2008, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You'll see the DVD Conspiracy Con, also there as well, and DVD, bioterrorism, H5N1, etc. And you'll see Connecting the Dots, which I did back some years ago as well. DVD at the Pearl Harbor Granada Forum, Los Angeles, December 7th. So all those videos are present there as well. You'll see also under the front page, you'll see some links for all of our audio archives. Below the different audio buttons we mentioned, we have radio audio archives. If you hit that, see radio, you'll see all the years of the different shows, different topics, like, for example, First Line of Defense, abortion alternatives and post-abortion counseling, pain medicine. You'll see a lot of different topics. There's actually 150 roughly topics in there. I think I've eliminated some of them that were not relevant just recently, but you can actually cross-index news items, and I'm working diligently, which will take a number of months to get it all up and cross-index for you. We put on a separate server than our Nutrimedical and Clay and Iron server, so it doesn't bog it down with people trying to access, because a lot of people want to access by topic. Once that's fully available, there'll probably be a small charge to get access to all the old archives, because it's going to do a tremendous amount of work to get that up, many hundreds of hours, which I may have to delegate to one of my techie friends. So looking at some of the systems here on Clay and Iron, you'll see also on topical teaching, there's downloadable PowerPoints, which we also have. You can go to the PowerPoints and presentations, MP3s, audio and video, etc. Those are all available under the topical teachings buttons, and you can see, just like we have protocols in our wellness condition, we have topical teachings here. Like on bioterrorism, for example, a topic teaching on a different topic. A lot of time there's a PowerPoint or video presentation. We'll be posting up also our live stream and YouTube videos over here as well on these specific topical teachings, so you'll find it searchable by that. So it makes it a lot easier to find things. So Clay and Iron is another important website that I want you to access to get a lot of information. All of the news is over here except for the nutritional news on Nutrimedical.com. So other than things like Fukushima, wellness, anti-aging, stem cells, which you'll find over and functional medicine at Nutrimedical, all of the news for anything other than that is over at clayandiron.com, and it's all searchable. Lots of amazing articles, videos, YouTubes, live stream, conferences. It's all over at Clay and Iron, and there's no charge. You can access anybody, anytime, anywhere, free. Back in just a moment. And welcome back, and I want to cover some of the other major advances that we're doing. Firstly, I'd like to go over some of the issues on what's going on in our live stream account. What you can do there is you can go to our Deagle TV Network live stream, and there's now 5 events I'm going to be adding to that. We'll have contributors after the show today with Ann Morris in hour 3. We'll be posting up a video on reviewing her live stream video, her channel, which is her twiland.info blog. We'll also maybe insert some video and other materials there as well. When Professor McKinney gets back, we'll be inserting more information on astrophysics and Earth changes on the live stream event channel there, sub-channel. Geopolitical analysis, we'll be bringing on people like Joel Skousen and other experts, Tim Alexander. And then we have our Christian channel, Christian World News, clayandiron.com channel. All the Christian authors' discussions, for example, I'll be bringing on Jonathan Gray to talk about his latest DVD. We'll post up some video and other information. And that event is constantly being updated. We all actually can do live conferences in any of these. All the Nutrimedical products will have a live stream information blog, and I'm going to upgrade a lot of medical information in terms of references and teaching information, not only for the regular public but for health professionals. All that's going to be free on the live stream Nutrimedical.com event sub-channel. So that information is available right now, actually, and you'll see a lot of the things that I extracted from our past channel. Under biosecurity, for example, if you hit that biosecurity channel, you'll see a lot of videos, including things like the Zika virus. I have an article to be publishing here this weekend on Fukushima Daiichi, and also one on healthcare, which I've been working on the platform. We'll start off with the 7 basic points of the Trump plan, but I'm going to add considerably more points to bring it far beyond that I don't like to use the term socialism because healthcare should be a right, but you have to have it in such a way that, number one, health professionals are treated with respect, but not over salaried, and it has to be based on outcomes, not a system that tends to do more surgery or more drugs as necessary and actually does a minimum, and it also uses other advances of functional medicine, toxicology, environment, and covers everything from food security to clean water that doesn't have biotoxins or fluoride. So we're going to have that channel. We'll have a lot of information for you, and it's all totally free. You can see in your iPhone, iPad, etc. You can watch it whenever you wish to watch it. That's going to be available. Some of the other items that we want to talk about in terms of the news, for general news, I want to cover some of these today. The Belgium officials are unsure if the suspect in custody is a man in the hat. They talk about the man in the hat at the Brussels bombing on March 22nd. The EU visa standoff strains allies. Canada needs to pass a trade deal. Apparently something going on there. Greece, of course, resumes migrant deportations to Turkey amid protests. So that's happening in Dikili, Turkey. Greece on Friday resumed deportations of migrants to Turkey after a 4-day pause. That's happening. The unemployment rate slips to 7.1%. So it was down to 7.1%, they say. Of course, they're always fiddling statistics, like here in America, if you stop looking for a job, you're no longer unemployed. There's over 95 million unemployed Americans that are out of the workforce, but they don't certainly reflect that in the unemployment statistics. Obama, the constitutional scholar, returns to law school to deliver a Supreme Court lesson. This guy he's a ticket. We call it, how do you know that Obama's lying? There's air moving over his vocal cords. Now, the residents dig mass graves for radioactive wild boar in Fukushima. They're trying to kill off these wild boars because they have a popular game animal for hunters, and local delicacy. Japanese officials say the wild boar population near Fukushima is quickly growing out of control. So we talked about this the other day, last Thursday, with Chris Harris, our nuclear safety expert. So strange side effects, just like the exclusion zone around Chernobyl in the Ukraine, where they have an exclusion zone of several hundred square miles where it's so radioactive no human could live there. And all the wild animals have significantly adapted to high levels of radiation, including weird changes in mutation in mice that jump like kangaroos, aggressive beavers that are, you got to really watch, it's like creepy at night. You make a Halloween type B movie over it, and strange effects in wildlife, so unexpected. But surprising, they adapted, and the surviving animals have much higher enzyme activity to protect against radiation. So it's speeding and pushing. Again, we're going to talk about this, the biology of belief, and how what I call punctuated recreation is occurring in all species under environmental stressors and what I call scalar hyperconscious epigenetic modification. For example, proteins can create through special enzymes, RNA, and RNA can code DNA. There actually is a DNA coding system in your chromosomes that can actually make DNA code and new epigenetic changes. So the theory of evolution is foolishness. Yes, spontaneous mutations happen, but they're almost always lethal. Diseases like Tay-Sachs disease, for example, are a good example of an illness where a mutation can increase resistance to TB. But most changes in species and organisms under environmental and epigenetic stress are what we call intelligent redesign. It's not just a spontaneous mutation, it's actually where proteins or the environment change genetic interpretation and code for new DNA sequences that actually make the organism adapt to a changing environment. So environment actually as an environmental trigger of intelligent redesign. So it's not just a spontaneous mutation. And we're going to have Bruce Lipton in his 10th anniversary book from last October 13th, 10th anniversary book on biology of belief. Signal, which is biophotons plus substance or DNA through epigenetics, creates intelligent new redesign of organisms. It's not just spontaneous mutation. There's an intelligent redesign going on. So God's implanted the intelligent systems for organisms to modify to the environment in an intelligent and an ordered and a directed way, which is pretty cool. It means recreation is occurring continuously. Doctors reveal reason why first U.S. uterus transplant failed. The FDA moves to ban cancer-causing pork antibiotic. There's apparently an antibiotic that's put in pork that's dangerous. What Americans don't know about the Zika virus could hurt them. Of course, Zika is spreading like crazy, and it's also causing birth defects, but I think also may cause degenerative brain changes, and there's ways to find that out using brain imaging studies, etc. Looking at terror drills, the Port Authority cops say surprise terror drills pose danger to officers and public. This is in New York City. The Pacific Fleet ships to take part in ASEA anti-terror drills. The Russian crews of groups of ships will be patrolling the area of the exercise and will be conducting a joint operation to detect and free the ship seized by a simulated terrorist group. Admiral Vinogradov and the anti-submarine destroyer the Fotoya. So Russian is doing sort of war games off in the Pacific Ocean as well. So RFID news, what's going on is apparel maker meshes RFID chips, etc. So we're seeing more and more RFID clothing, global frequency identification market, and healthcare analysis. So they're doing chips. The problem is a lot of people now are able to hack into medical systems and hospitals, and they're putting hospital patients and doctors in danger. And we talked earlier about the idea of using fingerprints and biometrics. The DNA biochip, which I mentioned at Building 7, developed by Affymetrix, and Building 10, as part of a DARPA project, has actually been in operation for 20 years. I saw it in 1999 in its particular iteration. So if you think these technologies are years away, no, we had them, most of them, for 20 years. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other major news items, and we will be talking at the top of the hour with Ann Morrison, our Twiland.info scientist and blogger, and we will open up the Zika virus issues, biosecurity, and much more earth changes in just a few moments. Well, as shoppers, it is cancellation day, coming someday not too in the distant future, depending on what happens this year in politics. We have the chance of Donald Trump coming in, who can fix the mess that we're in on the business level. But beyond that, we need a spiritual repentance of the population of America and the world for not, as I say, following the King of Wisdom, that's Yeshua, the Father in the flesh, that's what his name means, Yahashua HaMashiach, and fixing the relationship with each other in our nations. And, of course, right now, nations have become apostate, all of them, including America. It's not okay to say Merry Christmas. They're trying to actually make Sharia-compliant textbooks in Tennessee and elsewhere. We'll be bringing back on the program our experts like Bill Warner, former Tennessee State University professor. We need to talk about the fact that we promote abortion around the world and genetic engineering. In fact, last year they had a meeting in Britain about it's called the CRISPR protocol, and what's called gene editing. That's their term for actually editing and changing the genetics of humans, and even upgrading human genetics into animals so that you can literally have Zootopia where animals communicate with you in literally human language. That's scary. Many illnesses are increasing dramatically. We see a dramatic increase. For example, UCLA published last month that the rate of diabetes and pre-diabetes is 69% in people over age 30, and it's probably representative across not just America but the whole Western world. And what I tell people to do is go on a glycemic fast, take berberstatin to lower glucagon, because it's not just insulin that's a devil. That's why any drugs or insulin that raise your blood insulin will make you fatter and actually cause more trouble. You have to stop the free radicals, because that's the thing. Leukotriene B4, discovered and researched at UCSD, California, last February, published, showed that this is the cause of increased insulin and leptin resistance. What triggers it is a loss of free radical enzymatic protection from superoxide dismutase isoenzymes 1 and 2, increased levels of peroxynitrate and hydroperoxy radical, and the sugar just gets cross-linked or oxidized, which forms what's called advanced glycosylation end products that cross-link proteins and change the quaternary or protein three-dimensional structure of enzymes and structural proteins so they don't work as well. That's the cause of inflammation, and the inflammation is the underlying thing that happens in diabetes. It accelerates what we call brain inflammation, loss of astrocyte function, loss of GLUT4 transporter, So the only medium chain triglycerides, which is why people that are elderly will do well on MCT, such as coconut milk, because their brain cells don't fire as well. Diabetes of the brain basically is the primary trigger for Alzheimer's, and it'll activate old viruses as well in the brain tissue. So I'll be publishing this year my research and theory on the underlying cause of diabetes. I did the original research back in 1980 to 82 with Dr. Otto Huhn, and my theory this year can be proven with specific scientific parameters. So as I say, I welcome scientific criticism, not ad hominem criticism, scientific and logical criticism. So an 8-week, we would call it glycemic crash, where we basically replace breakfast and lunch with our glycemic drink. Add berberstap and leptin metabolic, and you may add minerals plus and chromium cruciferate to normalize minerals absorption and activity of the GLUT4 transporter, which has vanadium, chromium, zinc, etc. And you can reverse it. You need to take things to get rid of the free radicals. Cell detox glutathione, our new upgraded curcumin, Nutrimedical and carnosine to stop the cross-linked proteins. We call the carnosine, I call carnosine delinker. It delinks the cross-linked proteins and lowers hemoglobin A1C. So there's lots of things you can do. These are non-drug. You do not take things that increase insulin. Do not take things that don't address the oxidative stress that's going on. And do convert white fat, which is the central body fat in diabetics and obese people, into brown fat. It's a major problem, and it's not just calories. It's rapidly absorbed carbos, but it's deficiency of minerals that are really important in terms of our antioxidant systems, like selenium. So that gives you an idea. The latest on Zika virus, most Americans really don't know the dangers of Zika virus, not only in birth defects, but other problems are going to happen. And they're not interdicting people that come in and properly testing not only for Zika, but also the presence of OX513A genes, which they can do a FISH test to determine in saliva, buccal scrapings, etc. If the genes have actually inserted into the genome of people, and they'll transfer from people and mosquitoes to other, with a blood meal to other organisms, including even plants, like the ballworth moth in Georgia, according to Dr. Maywan Ho, has already transferred into other insects and even plants, changing their genetics. So that's pretty scary stuff. The latest research on many conditions such as pain, and I'm writing an article in a book on pain. The current approach toward pain is completely wrong-headed, and I'll just review my kind of a mini thesis of it. You have 3 different types of neurological modulators. The first are pain generators. They generate pain fibers, A, delta, and C fibers, including the periosteum of bone, the Glisson's capsule of the liver, the structures in the spine. There's only 4 that are innervated with nociceptive fibers. That's the posterior annulus of the disc, the apophyseal joint, 75% of the nociceptive A, delta, and C fibers, the ligamentum flavum, and the dural nerve sleeve. Those are the only 4 structures. Everything else is anesthetic. Those actually send to the skin, so without skin you cannot suffer pain. It's like having a computer without a computer monitor screen. Unless your brain can see the monitor screen, there is no pain. So your skin has a series of thing called Langerhans complexes that modulate and control the neurological input. It also changes the muscle firing pattern in the autonomic nervous system that we call Langerhans complex. Pre-processes the signal before it sends it up to the dorsal root ganglion, the ascending spinal thalamic tract to the subthalamic nuclei. And I'm going to explain this so neuroscientists can understand the reason why they don't know how to treat pain is they don't understand the separation of pain generators to pain gates. There's 7 gates. Primary gate is a Langerhans gate in the skin, which I discovered based on research from previous internist, dermatologist, and pathologist who sent me information back in the late 70s. And my research confirmed it, that the Langerhans gate is your primary pain gate in your skin. And I also have a patents on a technology to block pain there. We have other technologies such as Schumann resonance, micropulse, and lumen photon. I developed a special disc system and a thing called the Dynatens, the first morphogenic field machine in history to actually create what's called a resonant tissue frequency to affect DNA and tissue healing. And I'll be coming up with modifications of that, and probably in the next few years manufacturing them. When you're looking at different things, you don't want to use non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like diclofenac. Some of these drugs are continuing to push drugs that are toxic. They directly interfere with collagen. They directly interfere with hyaluronic acid polymer in your joints. They directly cross the blood-brain barrier, can cause depression, and they can increase vascular disease. So the big pharma are still pushing foolishness, and they talk about wearable devices to stimulate pain. The real simple wearable device is the micropulse and the lumen photon. They're very simple, very inexpensive, and there's nothing extra to buy. The latest research on cannabis, of course, for almost 30 years in Canada, they've had the cannabinoid molecules with all the we call the hallucinogenic molecules like delta-9 THC removed. There are cannabinoid receptors throughout the human neuraxis, so there's no reason why we can't control a lot of not only the peripheral pain, but the central processing of pain with cannabinoid molecules. But you want to make sure, if you legalize cannabis, as they've done in Colorado, they make a lot of spaced-out people, because these new forms of cannabis are far more hallucinogenic than the ones back in the 70s and 80s. So it's stupid. And they also need to decriminalize it. So basically, this is my approach. You test everybody in school and jobs for all drugs, and if they have a problem, you get them to treatment, mandatory treatment. And once they're released, you have them tracked and retested. And if someone has a real serious problem, you have a trackable anklet or a wrist. They can tell even in their sweat that they have the drug present, and we can get people back in treatment. But you decriminalize it. The people that actually are distributing the drugs, there's ways of actually tracking that, so you can identify where the drugs are with what's called molecular sensing drones, and you SWAT team them, remove them. Those are the people that need to be dealt with. And the most important thing is that we need to get the victims of the problem into rehab rather than letting them out there or turning them into criminals. And of course, jailing them for, say, 3 strikes you're out use of marijuana is ridiculous. When we come back, we'll be talking with Ann Morrison and her blog, twiland.info. Just amazing. There's a main link off of the Nutrimedical front page for Ann Morrison's blog. We'll be bringing on in the next few weeks Joel Skousen back and many other experts, and I will probably bring back on the program as well our Turtletop Shelters expert on preparedness. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. If you want to call in, it's welcome. 800-259-5791.